Hi, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to day 26 of the journal and the journey. Um, Today turned into one of those days that I think matters more than it may look from the outside. Not because there was some giant breakthrough, and not because the heavens opened and suddenly everything was easy. It's still not. Not because I woke up sounding like I'd been secretly replaced by a professional. It mattered because there were multiple moments today where I had chances to react badly, abreact either direction, overreact positively, maybe chase things from previous days I didn't need to chase, misread what was happening, but I've gotten into a rhythm and it didn't happen. Now, this really doesn't sound flashy, but I'm beginning to think that that kind of steadiness is where I will make room for the real progress. So the day started with my morning session on Be Prepared. Today was secondary. So the first take this morning opened in a wonderfully positive place. I mean, there are sessions when the energy is too low. There are sessions when the energy is too high. This was neither. The energy simply felt correct. I could not give it an too high or too low. I want to point out that because correct is, I think, a better word than high or low, because high or low simply means I'm not where I want to be. Correct doesn't necessarily say you're at a point, it said you were within a set of points. So, a lot of people, I think, always my opinion, mistake intensity for readiness, a mistake for effort for function, maybe pushing harder to do better. What I felt this morning was better than hype. It was absolutely the opposite. It felt normal. And when new techniques start to feel normal, it's good. It's actually very meaningful because that means I don't have to think about them as much. So, as I commented yesterday, there was real enjoyment in the take this morning. I mean, enough enjoyment that it honestly felt like a good first act of the day. I started the morning doing something good, doing something good instead of checking boxes. Playback showed solid musical performance, not perfect, never perfect, nothing magical, but solid. I will get back to that concept of never perfect. Not today. There were a few moments where energy sat a touch high, which affected blend a little bit. Some of the lower notes were there, but not blooming yet with that buzz and fullness I like. There's that difference between being able to go and there's a definite difference. But regardless of that, the take held together. One of my actual little favorite things that happened today, as I'm always trying to be in character and react, comes the wonderful Lion King line of "You won't get a sniff without me." And I don't know how I staggered my breath there, but on the word me, I got sort of a little chuckle in there. So it was more of a me. Didn't plan it, didn't set it up. It just happened, and it fit really well. And these things interest me because they often show up when everything's working well enough that my expression has room to appear. When everything is survival or battling or grasping, there's no bandwidth left for nuance. When coordination gets better, the personality sneaks back in and has room to play. And for me, that may be a bigger sign of progress than a single note. Let's see. Um, after that take, I paused and thought about this one thing that I've been noticing more and more, and that's the difference between producing a bass note in isolation outside of the confines of a song and producing that same note inside the real flow of a song. As I just demonstrated, I can hit a note, a low note with buzz, but outside the performance, it feels immediately available. I can put it there, I can touch it, the tone is right, the color is the way I want it. It just behaves. Inside the song, it's making its way through breath demand, movement, character intention, timing, momentum, whatever whatever chaos is currently going on to make this thing fun to do. So now my question becomes, do I have this note or do I only have it under certain conditions? And I'm not saying it negatively. I found today that this feels less like a missing ability and more like a coordination puzzle. Most of the work that I do, most of the doing and trying happens outside session. And I just think of things I need to focus on. And that's where I try to hash out these puzzles. If I think about it as a puzzle, it's encouraging because puzzles can be solved. If it's a mystery, that's harder. So on to take two. That was number 144 today, and as high as 143 was, 144 gave me some disappointment. I want to really be specific here that the reaction I have occurs right after I stop singing and before I actually listen to the playback to see how it actually sounded. And that matters because sometimes I come up with a story of what the experience was like before understanding what the result was like. I could feel that something wasn't fully present. The opening phrases actually, some of the notes felt flat, and that's in tone and engagement. I mean, literally half tone movements. The energy came in really too quietly, and while things started to improve as that take went on, the overall state really didn't come online. I even hit those theatrical moments, and they just didn't land right. So older versions of me might have turned that into an event, but you know, that thought of something's wrong, now we've lost it, ruined today's work, instead of having the reaction I had, which was brief, and then like a Vulcan logic kicked in. Maybe there was some fatigue. Maybe I wasn't fully charged before I entered. Maybe I was still thinking about those bass notes, but there was enough there that took me out of the take. And once I was able to see it that way, the session became more obvious. I'm just going to stick with the first one I went through. I'm not going to try to pick it back up again because that's for me chasing. You know, let me see if I can get it back. That's a chase. Okay, so it was different. Don't become crazy about it. So what I did was I walked away with my perspective intact. And I think again, I'll always preface a lot of this with I think. In creative ventures, I think it is healthier. And responding with perspective intact is a healthier response than basically trying to emotionally wrestle what you want. I mean, my son's a gamer. I think he calls it rage playing. Yes, I'm old. Then in the afternoon, I was back on Boulevard. This one was especially interesting because yesterday had more of a calibration feel to it. It was useful work, but not really triumphant feeling. So how it opened up today mattered. And like Be Prepared did in the morning, the first take of Boulevard was already online and ready to go. And that really means something for me. There have been days, and I've talked about them, where the machinery needs one or two shots to actually get up to speed. And, breath is either there, not controlled, placement, anything. But today, Take One showed up right on the money from the word go. The energy level was appropriate. The upper notes for the first time felt like they were just there and I wasn't reaching for them. Basically, the whole thing was already available to me. And that was in itself progress from the previous ever. So I always break up Boulevard into its 4 sections. The initial verse, which starts in the higher octave. One of the complaints I've had of myself is that the tone of my singing voice on the upper octave is a little tinny and almost feels to me a little whimpery. And today was the first day that all of that hesitation dropped away. Still a little tinny, but it really felt like it was definitely going to be where it was. And like I said, for the chorus, high notes, they were all fine. And the fact that I didn't have to reach for them, and my energy was actually, not pushing all the way, it was lower, that was a huge distinction. So section 4, which is the new one, really is now changing from that newer developmental area into something familiar enough that I can actually pay more attention to refinement than just making sure I'm doing it right. So a lot of really nice little milestones today. First you learn it and you survive it, and then you could reproduce it. Now you get up to shaping it, molding it, and all of these are different phases you get through, and there can be overlap or going back and forth between them. But today, that last part really suggested that this piece is beginning to move down the road, which as I not lock in, but as I stabilize on my last section, I start thinking about bringing in more of the song. That's going to be difficult. I'll talk about that probably tomorrow. So, larger takeaway. First take, system is able to hit the ground running, open up at full regulated level without needing 2 or 3 shots to get there. It's not really big neon sign glamorous, but it's progress. So I used the second time through to actually experiment. Like I said, I tend to feel my upper octave is a little on the tinny side. And what I really want is a little more darkness on it, but I've never really learned how to shift between really, I think it's far forward versus bringing it up from lower. So I tried it, and it definitely changed things. There were moments of there were moments of lots of new colors, but there were little points of what I really think I've been not necessarily aiming for, but hoping for. And because when I'm dealing with the high section, that right now with the 4 sections is everything but 2. Section 2, I want to actually hit on that one. one of the things that was disturbing me about it is it's not monotone. It has a melody, but it is very, in a way, emotionless with a lot of emotion underneath. And what was happening was I was being pitchy. That's with a P. And what was happening is on a sustained note, you could kind of feel the note wiggling around. And yesterday, I sort of moved into what I refer to as micro pitchiness. So I wasn't really dipping that far down, just enough that I could hear it. And today, I kind of locked into it, and that started to fade away. So yeah, there is a darker sound in there. It's available. I have to find it because, like I said in section one, there were lots of colors when I started looking for a specific one. It did come with extra energy expenditure because I was focusing on something else, less coordination, lots more variation in pitch. So the stability was kind of out the window for this, but that wasn't the point. Nothing that I've done so far has been switch it on, find the next switch and turn it on. It has been more of flick the switch a couple of times in the room, see if the light will come on or not, and then bring the brightness up gradually. So by playing around with the color, today's was there is a new switch. There's a new gear. It's real, and I just haven't quite figured out how to use it yet. That's really actually very valuable to me. Then came probably one of the smartest things of the day that I did. Yes, I pat myself on the back. I had Boulevard, a really fantastic take. I had a second take, which was on one level all over the place, but on the other level, identifying for me that there is possibility. And on a primary day, I'll usually do 3 or 4 takes, but I decided, I'm done. 2 was enough for today. I really didn't have anything else to prove. There's that thought of one more because, but you don't want to use a because. You want to do, I thought one day I would just want to do another take because I enjoy it. That's a because I can work with. So 78 got me a good feel of where my performance level is and going. 79 showed me that things that I'm shooting for are available. They're in there somewhere. So I really didn't need to do anything else. So session over. Now, again, this all may sound small, but knowing when to stop, knowing when enough has happened, in some ways, in some areas, that's a skill. There's so much time, and coming out of 35 years as a software engineer, and the piles of cans of caffeine on my desk, there is a lot of wasted time on just trying to push yourself into extra work. Sometimes the discipline is not pushing harder. It's closing the folder and saying, we'll pick this up tomorrow. And maybe it was the experience from software engineering that has sat in the back of my head for this. Again, there are parts of this journey that happen that are completely away from the microphone. Not every piece of progress comes from a take or a playback or the rehearsal room. Actually, some of it comes from learning how to think differently about the work itself. So I want to take a quick digression today. One of the things that I'm thinking more about lately is how you even choose a piece of music for an a cappella rendition. And a lot of people probably assume you just pick songs you like. And yeah, liking the song really helps. If you don't connect to the song or the material, that shows. I have been in plays by Ibsen. I think it shows. If you don't connect to the material, you can't find the fun in it or the beauty in it. Or maybe you can, but it's just sometimes a little manufactured. However, not every great song is automatically the right thing for a cappella. Some music sounds incredible, but it's because of the instrumentation or the production or the number of layers it sits in there. Voices alone may not necessarily serve it very well. Some songs are so tied to signature sounds, or their beat or their production, that if you miss even slightly on those, you remove the part of the heart of that song. What makes that song connect? As always, I feel the need to digress to like groups like the big three right now for me are Pentatonics, Home Free, and of course Voice Play. They can find a way to take instrumentation away in such a way that they can still vocally put it back in without trying to imitate the instruments. If you had asked me 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, could you take a piece of Metallica and make it a cappella? I would have assuredly said you were insane, and it's been done. So let's step away from the songs that are that complex. Other songs have something different. They've got space for new harmonies, some emotional punch, maybe some clear vocal roles that would stand out to give it a style that lets you be true to it while still making it your own. That's where voices can really bring something to life. Sometimes an arrangement can make you hear something in the original that you never heard. I know I've fallen in love with songs again when I've heard certain covers. So there's another part of it, and that's the fit. And it's not just if the song's good and you like it, but from my studies of a cappella performance, voices are malleable and can do different things, but inevitably there are certain things that don't fit voices. And unless this piece fits the voices you're working with, it seems like it's gonna be off. And not necessarily just the voices, but the general feel of what this group presents, their fit, their idiom. So a good song can be the wrong song for one group and the right song for another. And part of this journey for me isn't just learning to sing better. The long range goal is to be arranging music and performing a cappella with a group. So right now it is learning to really hear music differently. Really spending time listening to what an a cappella group has done with an original song and see those transformations and changes and understand why the song is not dissolved or fallen apart. So I'm learning to hear music differently, but now not as a listener, but as someone asking, can this be made into something new? If the answer is yes, my next step, of course, is, well, what do I have to do to make that happen? There are people out there who just arrange for a living, and they are unbelievable. Anyway, I've only scratched the surface of this topic, and I am going to explore it more deeply in the future on this journal. But for the meantime, let's wrap up the main story. What do I think today was really about? I think it's stability. I had joy. I had letdown. I had strong function and experimentation that was all over the map. And at multiple points today, I could have let one feeling drive the next thing I did. But I was able to basically acknowledge it and hold it under control. It didn't. I enjoyed the good take without becoming enamored or dependent on it. I evaluate a weaker take without dramatizing it or doomsaying myself. I explored something new without pretending it was automatically better. And I felt that I ended when work was done, not when I felt I needed to complete. And I think that balance itself is really essential for this kind of development. I always hear people say, balance on the support. So there's more than just putting it out there. There's keeping it level, keeping it controlled. Your voice isn't the only thing there. The brain is there, the mindset, the judgment, any history is going on. Habits show up. You have to put that in its own little space in a corner in the back of your brain so that you can just bring everything together. I know it's very, very zen. If everything becomes steadier, all of the mechanism becomes steadier. You think about it less, you have more room to play. And really, that's the kind of progress that doesn't necessarily sound exciting, but it's the one that I hope will last. I, of course, welcome comments on this one. If it's, do you feel it is something special? Is it something that's like, why hang on that? Let me know, because I'm curious. Anyway, thanks for spending a little time with me today. I have just realized I have not shown off my t-shirt. It is one I wore about 2 weeks ago. That is a computer science joke about testing new code in production and use. Kind of a complicated story there. But anyway, if your own progress currently looks less dramatic and more quietly competent, yay. That may mean that you're building something as well. I don't know. But I will see you next time. That's going to wrap things up for day 26. As always, later.